Hi everybody, welcome to the Dice Tower. I'm Wendy Yi.
I'm Chris Yi.
And today we are going to be reviewing Squaring Circleville.
Wham! This is a heavyweight box. It's an involved game, but not too difficult. This is designed by Matt Wolf and published by Spielworks Games.
So let's head on over to Chris and he's going to show you how it's played.
Here's the setup for a game of Squaring Circleville. Players are going to be moving around the map here and trying to build roadways that are squared off in a grid as opposed to the circular shape here, which the city planners then later regretted. Players are doing this by completing the requirements in each sector and then putting out these tiles here to represent the grid-style streetways that are shown there. Players are doing this in pursuit of getting majorities for contributing the most to each sector because there are victory points awarded for first, second, third, and fourth place in terms of the amount of cubes that they contributed to each area. The game will end when all areas of this map are completed. Over here is the action rondelle, in which players are going to be moving around in a clockwise motion and selecting actions that they'll do on their turn. These are bonuses and endgame points, which I'll cover later. Here are equipment tiles, which give you special abilities, like, say, being able to move around the action rondelle counterclockwise if you want, so you can have more options, or giving you more movement or better strength of actions. Lastly, here's the player board, which describes the 4 actions that you can do, as well as alternate actions along the side here. But let me show you how the game is played. On your turn, you're going to move your person here in the City Hall 1 to 2 steps. So in this case, for example, yellow is going to move over here. And they're going to be able to take 2 actions per turn. One is the color of the wedge that you landed in. The second is the color of the disc on the top of this stack. So in this case, blue and red actions, and you can do them in either order. As you take an action, you can choose to move your representative here, your pawn, throughout the city into other spaces before, after, or even during your action. Let me show you what that means. So I'm going to take the red action first, and then the blue one, because I'm conveniently moving across this board here. So I will move and do the red action, which lets me put out 2 of my cubes on top of red spots. This represents paving the way, getting this district ready to be squared off. Next, I'm going to do the blue action. I'm going to choose to move during my action. I can put out 2 blue cubes, so I'll move one here, move my worker, and then put the other one over here. And that's the end of my turn. At the end of the turn, I grab the top disc from over here, set it onto my player board, so this is how I'm going to level up my different colored actions by putting discs out there. So in the future, I could be able to put out 3 red cubes or even 5. Now, when the next player goes, they can move the 1 or 2 spaces. They can move 1 over here. They can move a second space where I am, or they're allowed to skip over me, so their second movement could be out here to this green and orange space. They're going to choose to do the orange action, which is the deconstruction action. So white is going to move out over here, and they're going to demolish one of these buildings. They'll put a cube here to show that they are working, that they contributed to getting this district ready to be squared off, and they'll place the building in the reconstruction queue over here. Now for the second action, the green one, they'll move back because you have to do the green reconstruction action in completed areas. So they're allowed to do 1 building. They'll take the building from the front of the queue, place it out into a district over here, and they're going to put their color control marker out here to show that they are the one who reconstructed. They put in the effort. Any cubes that you put on top of completed zones will move you up this track here for endgame majority scoring, showing that you did the most reconstruction. Now let's show an example of what happens down here if players have completed a whole section of the map, and then and the bonuses that happen as soon as you complete this whole section. You look for who has the majority. They're going to get the first place points. Second place is going to get the next one. If a player didn't contribute, they won't get any. So 5 to yellow and 3 to pink. However, because the pink player is the one who completed this district, they're going to get a bonus tile over here that they can use on a later turn. Then you place out the matching tile from the side over here that shows the completed district. Whoever had the majority in this district, whoever contributed the most before, gets to place one of the cubes out here to show that they were the ones who did the most preparation work. The cubes will go back to the respective players, and now play continues. This could even interrupt the middle of an action. Now, as the board fills in, more of these bonuses will be awarded, and then over here at the side, players, when they get these bonuses, will also get to choose where to set these endgame scoring offers, and I'll explain why. Because there are alternate actions here that you can do on each color. So let's say that we leveled up our red action all the way up here. We could now, when we do a red action, instead of putting out cubes, do any one of these side actions we want. We can move our person here in the town more spaces. We could grab one of these equipment tiles. We could beautify a garden space by covering up that little garden space, giving us a step up the track. We could beautify an existing building that was reconstructed. We just contribute to make it look nicer by putting a cube there and move up on this track. And lastly, if we are all the way up here, we could grab one of these endgame victory point tiles. You can have 3 of those at most. Those will score up at the end of the game, and that's how you play Squaring Circleville. So the theme of this game is lovely, right? You're reconstructing this city that was built by city planners in a circle, and everybody ended up hating it, like the entire town.
Engineering gone wrong.
Yeah, and so it's a town in Ohio. It's a historical game. It shows a year range, right, on that track, that kind of round, the game tracker. Like every time you complete a sector, you pull off a little tile, and shows kind of progress over the years of when it. I like those little flares, those little touches. Do you like the theme? Because obviously I like it.
I think it's a weird theme. I think it's weird that it happened in real life. I think that's what's stranger, is that this is based on a real thing. That there was a circle town that needed to be squared off.
Yeah, it's one of those truth is stranger than fiction type things.
Yes.
If you said, hey, I got a theme for a game, and I was like, why? But, oh, it's real. Got it. And appropriately, I think the fact that it's a circle-based town, it's circle-based name, it's a rondel system, right? You move in a circle and take actions. I like that touch. It's really silly, but I like it. And I tend to like this mechanism in games.
I'm hit or miss with rondels. This is an interesting one because as you move, the space that you land on, as well as the disc in the top of the stack, determines what your 2 actions are going to be. And overall, I find that that's a fine way to have an action selection. I did feel like it was frustrating that there was a weird tightness with that very often I couldn't get the actions that I wanted, especially not the combinations of actions that I wanted. That also worked with the very tight movement on the board. And so you can get to the space that you want to be at and have just enough movement, but not the right actions. Or you could have all the right actions, but be short 1 movement. And so I found that frustrating often.
It's funny because every time I've played this, you've been more frustrated about that. And I've not had that level of frustration with, oh, the top orange disc is gone. And now it's, I was going to do a blue and orange action. It's gone now because the previous player went there. I'll do blue and red. That sounds fun. And I just and maybe it's a mindset of just kind of rolling with it because that rondel will change. But I love the fact that there are pre-printed spaces, so you can guarantee. Like I know a blue action is 1 or 2 spaces away from me almost any time.
Yeah, so you can at least get 1 action that you want. I think the thing is that this game feels like it's all about maximizing to the maximum, like because you're upgrading your actions, you want to use the maximum of those actions, and oft times you can't. Oh, I can lay out 4 red cubes, but I can only move to spots with 3 red cubes if I want to be able to also do blue cube actions. I can't ever fully maximize my full blue track and my full red track. I mean, you can do it sometimes, but there's often.
And it's so funny how much you and I disagree on this, right? Because one of my favorite parts about this game is the flexibility of movement. You view the movement as fairly restrictive, and I find it to be, as opposed to many games that are like this level of strategy and thinkiness and stuff.
That you move, then you take an action, then you move, then you take an action.
Right, but in this game you can move during, before, or after.
I do agree that I appreciate that level of flexibility.
Because once you start putting out 5 red cubes at a time, there's almost no spaces. I don't think there's any space on the map that has 5 red spots. Mm-hmm. So I put out 3 here, I move in the middle of it, and I get to put out my 2 afterwards. That is fantastic. I love when games let you be strong and then get to use that strength. I hate games where you're like, oh, I leveled up. I could demolish 7 goblins in 1 single attack, and there's never more than 2 goblins on the board at a time. That sucks. Let me be strong, and that's what this game does, and it gives me the flexibility to take advantage of it. So
that's funny, because I often felt oppositely.
I don't know. And it's funny because you have also smashed me at this game.
I have.
Many a time.
There is a power in this game where you get an extra movement for every action that you have. And that just is ridiculous. It's ridiculously strong. It does exactly what I wish the game would do, but I see why they don't do that because I just went anywhere I wanted all the time, and I was like, red cubes everywhere, all the time.
Demolish all these buildings. So,
I can do it all. So it let me do everything I want to do, which was great, but because I could do that and Chris couldn't, it ruined that game, I think.
Those equipment tiles, I don't know, some are obviously better than others. Some are situationally better than others. And I think that in a two-player game, which is what we've played this at most, I don't think that the equipment tiles feel that great. Whereas playing this with higher player counts, it opens up a few things. One, the rondel opens up a little bit because there's more people out there and you can skip over places where other people are.
Farther.
You put more people on that board and you can skip more. I think that's good. I'm almost surprised that there's not like a two-player dummy person that just, after every turn, moves one space no matter what, so that you can simulate a little bit more of that skipping. And I think that the equitable feeling of the equipment tiles is a little bit more distributed with higher player counts. I think that's the thing, is this game doesn't seem ideal at 2.
It doesn't. The area majority also is so cutthroat at 2, whereas with 3 you're able to spread around a little bit more amongst the 4 quadrants. Whereas with 2 players, if I get 3, I'm winning the game. Like if I have majority in 3.
Especially after the quadrants are reconstructed and you're moving up those tracks, right? But also in each individual space, because there's the majority points that you get for, I put the most cubes on like the red and blue cube and demolishing buildings thing. I liked that dynamic in a higher player count game because I'm very happy to take a bunch of second places in a 3 or 4 player game, but I'm really unhappy.
Yeah, in a 2-player game, you're getting like half the points. And there's not enough other points going on other places. So you have that board on the side that lets you get endgame scoring stuff that's specifically for yourself, and I think that board is... It's weird that you have to put those out anyways. I find that strange. But once you have them, everybody usually gets 3. And so especially in a 2-player game, those don't really matter as much. They do matter, but they don't have as much weight as just the majorities and the quadrants of like the completed city.
So I've got 2 complaints, I think, primarily about this game. I know one of them, I think that you might share both of these, right? First off is the end game scoring tiles, right? You have a bunch of those on the side. They start coming out little by little. But when you close a city sector, you put one of those tiles into like a red, blue, yellow, or green space. So that someone can grab them later. And maybe get 2 points. If you match, right? If I do the level 5 alternate action with red and I grab one that's in red, I get 2 points. I don't love that part of it. It's kind of... They come out in a random order anyway, and so it's not like I'm really strategically thinking. And then also the scoring on the tiles themselves, it can be extremely random. Score 1 point for every small building in the green quadrant at the end of the game. No individual has that much control over how to kind of seed those victory point things, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know.
There's so many of them to plan that far ahead and say, oh, I'm going to work towards these 3, and I'm the only one that's going to specialize in green, so I'm going to put it in green. Like that doesn't really make sense.
And you have to build them in order of the queue as you demolish them.
Yeah.
It's a FIFO accounting system. First in, first out.
So I realize I've said nothing positive about this game so far, so you will probably think that I hate it. I'm not in love with it. But I do enjoy... So I enjoy that there are moments in this game where when you mix the player powers or whatever you call them...
Like those one-time ability tokens...
No,
the equipment tiles.
The equipment, yeah. So you have the equipment, and then you have the one-time ability tokens. And when you combine those together, you do have some cool turns, and I appreciate that. There's some moments where I can be like, ooh, I completed this one, and then I jumped over there, and I completed another one, and I got majorities on the board.
And I didn't explain in the overview, you can, as you upgrade your actions, you put those tokens out, you can, on your turn once, trash 1 token of all 4 colors to take a 3rd bonus action.
Yes, you add that in there too. So there's those moments. They're just few and far between. And I feel like more often I felt like, oh, I really want to do this thing and I can't. And Chris will finish it on his turn. And so
I think my
set up for it.
I think my second big complaint about the game is the game arc. There's not a great climax to the game. Mm-hmm. It's fairly flat. It's a fairly fun flat. Like, I'm enjoying every turn that I take. I'm enjoying the whole game. But there's, like you said, there's very few peaks in the excitement.
Yeah, they're there, but they're few. The ending also, the game ends when you complete the last section, and sometimes that last section is worth almost no points. And so you're like, well, I'd rather just do other stuff that gives me more points.
Try and move up the tracks.
Than completing that last section because, And so there's that sense of like, this could just kind of draw on if nobody bites the bullet and just, takes that.
Right.
So, I mean, it is worth points, which I appreciate that. There's, the final end game one-time use token is a 3-point token.
Thing, yeah.
So I appreciate that because then there is a motivation to finish the game.
Right. Let's move on to final scores. I think that I'm going to come in higher than you, so why don't you go ahead and give your score and your thoughts first.
I'm going to give this a 6. There are a lot of Euro elements to it that I find enjoyable, that you do get to move around a rondel, you get to move your worker, there's lots of things to do, and there's lots of opportunities to build up your actions and grow stronger and those great things. But I find this game just mostly frustrating, and also there's just stuff that doesn't need to be there. Like, where am I going to put the end game scoring tokens on the board? Am I going to make it around the rondel? Are the tool power things, are they going to be... Is mine going to be stronger than Chris's? Because that's just how they came out. You only use 4 in a game. And so there's enough of that I find it frustrating. There's some things that feel unintuitive. When you're moving in the middle of your action or sometimes after your action, there's moments where I get a little lost even. I'm like, okay, how much movement did I spend? I did one action. Did I move before? Did I move after? Is where I'm moving now suddenly part of a group that wasn't part of it, so I could move farther than I thought I could. There's just stuff in there that for some reason, like, it's unintuitive to me, and so I spend so much time just kind of staring at the board going, what do I want to do? I can't do what I want to do. What else can I do? I can't do that either. Let me find something I can do that's worth it.
Interesting. Yeah, and I just don't share as many of your frustrations with it. I think that some of the mechanisms are a little superfluous or feel a little bit weird. I feel a little bit of frustration with some of the equipment tiles. We're like, oh, that one's just better. But I'm going to come in with a 7.5 for this game because I think that the rondel part of it is lovely. It's a really simple system where instead of having a lot of symbols, instead of having a lot of tons of different actions, there's 4. There's 4 color actions, and you just do them. The alternate actions you can do on the side, I like leveling them up so you can do them. Some of them are fairly boring, and so I don't really do them very often. But then some of the equipment tiles makes those better, so there's kind of that give and take. I think the biggest problem that holds this back from being even higher for me, because I do like the core loop of the game, I do like the rondel, I like the map a lot, it's just that lack of excitement, the lack of like really, really exciting turns. I like that it's consistently fun throughout, but at the end it drags a little bit, and it should instead kind of peak in excitement right at the end of the game. So 7.5 because it's competently fun and enjoyable. I think it's mechanically very smooth, and it leads to some, hey, I had a good turn, but never like I had a fantastic turn. So that's my thoughts on Squaring Circleville.
There you go. Thanks so much for joining us at the Dice Tower today. I'm Wendy Yi.
I'm Chris Yi.
And have fun doing circles.